Thank you for putting your name forward as a candidate of Ward Papastew. Tell us a bit about yourself, your lived experience, and why you made the decision to run for City Council.
I'm a lifelong resident of Edmonton. My dad was raised in Ritchie. My grandparents, 53 years in Park Allen. My parents had a small, low-income home for the first 5 years of my life that they rented, and then they bought their one and only house in Aspen. I was raised there, traveled all over the country, then came back and raised my own kids there, and my sisters raised hers in Greenfield. I decided to run when I became quite concerned about the state of the city, and that was even before COVID. I think that we need to engage our communities closer and listen to our communities better. At the same time, we need to build business in the city so that we have a future for our children. And I think that those things are all of great concern to me. At the same time, moving towards a greener future.
So, my name is Kirsten Goa, and I'm running for council. I've lived in Ward Papastew all but 2 years of my life. My 5 kids have grown up here. I grew up here, and they're sort of all starting to fledge. My background is pretty eclectic because I had 5 kids. So I started off as a teacher, but ended up spending an awful lot of time in the community doing work with different boards, doing consulting work, editing. But the reason I decided to run was, it started in 1995 when I decided I would never run because I saw how toxic it could be for people, and especially for women. And I didn't have political ambitions, but it seemed like something I couldn't wrap my head around at the time. So, but then I kept seeing the same kind of politicians getting elected, including ones involved in that campaign in 1995. And so about 6 years ago, I'm like, I think I need to run in 2021 because I really feel the need to do politics differently. So I got involved in community organizing work about 12 years ago, and it really sort of centered for me the fact that sort of 2 things. One is that we can actually build power together to make things better in our communities. I spent a lot of time on picket lines and writing letters and, at protests, but didn't feel like I was getting very far, and I wanted to see concrete change. Organizing work gave me the tools to do that and to work with across different interests, not just within sort of that polarized kind of politics. And the city is where we do that collaborative politics a lot better and a lot more. And it's also where the biggest challenges we're going to be facing over the next decade, things like the climate crisis, things like, massive need for economic transition, the real disparities between those who have and have not, and the futures of our children are going to be decided. And so I became a student of the city about, my first municipal action was 20 years ago. And then about 12 years ago, I started doing that work very intentionally, working with communities to try to help build up, not only figure out what I learned, but then also be able to help translate that to community and help build up the skill and capacity in community to also be able to navigate this rather complex institution that has so much impact on how they live every day. So, yeah, that's why I think.
Awesome. Well, thank you. My name is Michael Janz, running for City Council here in Ward Papastew. And if we go back a little bit, I'll admit I wasn't born in Edmonton. I was born in Vancouver, grew up in rural Alberta, and then came up to the U of A in 2002-03. And Edmonton, what kept me here was the culture, the festivals, the opportunity, the education system. I, like many folks in the neighborhood, came here because of the U of A, but stayed here because of the community. And after my time at the University of Alberta, I got involved as the marketing director of the Edmonton Federation of Community Leagues. I volunteered on other civic engagements, and including the library board, and work with the University of Alberta. And in 2010, I was first elected to the Edmonton Public School Board. And over the last 11 years, I have been working with neighbors, communities, and friends to help achieve things on behalf of the community for public education. We, back in 2010, when we were facing up to 70 potential school closures, I helped implement a moratorium on school closures. When we were facing cutbacks under the PCs and then the Kenny government, I fought back there. And I offer that same animated resistance in terms of standing up for Edmonton, getting a fair deal for our neighbors, to Edmontonians now. Whether we're talking about transit or our river valley or our public services, I've stood up before and I'll stand up again.
All right. So I grew up in St. Albert, but since after high school, I've been living in Edmonton, kind of all over the place. I studied economics at the University of Alberta, and ever since graduating, I've been working in the environmental industry. I manage an audit department there. What got me to decide to throw my hat in the ring was kind of a combination of things. One was I was starting to get a little bit fed up with the divisions in politics. You see a lot of populist politics kind of using the fear to get their base riled up, and it's not helpful as we move forward, because the other reason is that I think that we need to act right now on the climate emergency. And with that said, I've always kind of found the divisions in party politics to be counterproductive, and I don't think that it's really the best way to enact effective change with acting on the climate emergency. So I've always looked at municipal politics as that way to really actually get change going. And I know that it's a global issue, but I always look at climate change as more of a kind of a selfish solution, where I look at what I can do and what we can do as individuals. And so I look at the city of Edmonton, and I think that there's a lot of work that we can do, and it may not be enough to solve the climate crisis, but it can do a lot, and other cities can look to us as a leader, and obviously there's economic benefits with that as well.
Sure. Well, I'm Tarcy Schindelka. I am a business owner here in the city of Edmonton. I'm a family man. I've got two daughters, 16 and 14. The older one, she has special needs as well. Why did I decide to run? I mean, it comes down to watching my services drop while my taxes continue to go up. And I just think there was a lot of prioritizing in a direction that isn't actually effective for residents of the city. And the straw that broke a camel's back was it's a personal story that I watched a storm drain get replaced near my house. And it took 5 crews of people to do it. And I went, and the number of weeks it took to get it done was absolutely insane. And I said, that's just not an effective way to use taxpayer dollars. And so that was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah, my name's Haruun Ali. I'm running for City Council in Ward Papaschase because I firmly believe that in the next coming years, we need someone with a progressive vision. We need different. And I think that's what's been struggling, especially for residents in Papaschase. It's what I'm hearing at the doors, is that they're tired of the same old, you know what I mean? The same old system that hasn't worked for them, whether it comes to policing, whether it comes to transit, whether it comes to the housing crisis, or even the opioid crisis. All of these systems have failed fundamentally. And the reason why they have failed is because we have the same old politicians going back into the system and trying to keep these same systems running. And that's the reason why we need someone young, we need someone with a new vision, and we need someone that is willing to try new things, because that's exactly what Edmonton needs coming in the next 4 years. And it's one of the reasons why I decided to run. Another major one, and it would be bad if I didn't say it, is climate change. Because as the youngest city council candidate running in this election, I firmly believe that we need municipal action and federal and provincial action on climate change, because at the end of the day, we are facing a climate crisis. Every single decision we make is a climate decision. Every single thing that we move forward on as a city council will affect climate change, and having someone young like me is a benefit to that. Because every single time I'm on city council, they're gonna have to ask for my vote. And the 18-year-old's gonna be like, well, the first thing you gotta talk about is climate change. How is it gonna affect climate change? And that's a question I'm gonna ask on every single motion, because it makes sense and it's something that people deserve to know. But yeah, that is why. Oh, and sorry, I did also forget. Another big, huge inspiration for me was the Black Lives Matter protests that happened back in June. I was a little involved in that, and it really sparked an interest in me. Something I was really concerned about was there was no action that was going to come out of it. And yeah, I am proud to be the only candidate in this ward that actually has a designated policing plan to actually get it done.